Alright, welcome to the Android Netrunner Beginner Tournament. We are seeing a match between Ikuna and Circusfire. Ikuna is playing Jinteki Personal Evolution, and Circusfire is playing Whizzard Master Gamer. On the opening hand, this is a pretty reasonable opening hand for Corporation. Two ice, no agendas, always what you want to see. Circusfire has. This hand has a lot of economy with Katie Jones' liberated counts, and Wildside lets you draw for extra draw power. It also has Xanadu to try to help keep the corporation's economy expensive. But doesn't have any breakers. He's keeping it, so apparently that's good enough for him. Oh, and Ikuna drew Beanstalk Royalties, which is an excellent card for Jinteki. It's just more money for them. They really don't have very much money, so gaining a 3 credits for an action instead of just clicking for credits is very good for them. He decided not to play it. He's probably keeping it in case Whizzard does something like a account siphon or a vamp to drain all of his credits, because Beanstalk Royalties is a good way to quickly gain credits after losing all your credits through a vamp or account siphon. And I'll go look at his ice. He has an Enigma on HQ, Wallsack on R&D. It's pretty standard. Circusfire clicked for credits and played liberated accounts. That's not a terrible move. I'm not actually sure whether it's better to do that or to play Katie Jones first. We'll see. I don't often play with liberated accounts. It's generally only good in Anarch decks, and I don't often play them. I mean, it's not even great in Anarch decks. It's pretty good. Shouldn't I have the uncensored version of this? I'm sorry. I thought I updated the scans of versions of everything, but I apparently did not update to the latest uncensored versions, so I apologize. There's Katie Jones coming out. That's a pretty good card. Getting an early Katie Jones is very big. Again, there hasn't been any runs yet, which it's not a terrible play for Circusfire not to run here, but I would definitely run. I would probably run and try to force Ikuna to res some ice. There's a snare. This snare is a very good card at punishing runs. Looks like he's going to install the snare just face down. This is always a risky move because if the runner doesn't run the snare, it doesn't do anything. Leaving it in your hand means that if the runner is running HQ, then they'll eventually hit the snare, most likely. But if you put it face down, if they sniff out that's a trap, then, I mean, it doesn't really do anything. Usually, if they don't run it immediately, they're not going to run it at all, so it's very likely that either Circus will run it this turn or he'll never run it for the rest of the game. So it's kind of a risky move for Ikuna to do that. Yeah, Circus is looking for Katie Jones. Wildside and Katie Jones. Oh, he played Xanadu, so it's looking like Circus might run. No, he drew a card. This is interesting. I would have taken credits off of liberated accounts there. I don't like clicking for cards when I have Wildside going because Wildside is often all the card draw you need. I mean, sometimes you have to, but I bet Circus is looking for a breaker of some sort. And it looks like he installed Ikuna installed his Sakai grid, which does 1 net damage whenever the runner makes a successful run on that server. So if Circus runs on the server, he's looking at 4 net damage right now, which is a lot of net damage. There's Darwin. Darwin is a breaker that I'm not really impressed with. It can break anything, but its strength is very low, and you can't boost its strength. And it costs two. At the beginning of your turn, you can pay credit to put a power counter on it, and its strength is equal to the number of power counters on it. Or a virus counter, not a power counter, a virus counter. That's important because the corp can just clear virus counters if your Darwin gets up to, 3 strength or so. And then you have a Darwin that can't do anything, that can't break anything. It's good with personal touches or data suckers as sort of like the only breaker you'll ever need. But if you don't have cards that synergize very well with it like that, then it's very weak and it doesn't do enough. So Circus made his first run against an Enigma. Enigma is very, very bad for you when you have Wild Side going, just because, when you have Wild Side out, your clicks are very, very precious. Losing a click to an Enigma is kind of a bad day. But on the bright side, it did cost the corporation 4 credits because Xanadu increases the res cost of ice by 1. So this Enigma, although it's 3 costs, it's actually 4 costs when Xanadu's in play. And instead of doing anything, he discarded the Darwin. I'm betting he's going to retrieval run it back in the future. Which is a move. It's a fine move, but it's not nothing to get excited about. I don't think it's worth running a retrieval run in your deck if your plan is to retrieval run back a Darwin, because retrieval run costs 3 and Darwin only costs, or retrieval run costs 3, Darwin costs 3. So it's actually definitely not worth it. There's a Femme Fatale. This is much better than retrieval run. Retrieval run, you make a run on archives, and if it's successful, you can return a program from your heap to and install it into your rig, as it were. So it seems like Circusfire's deck is built around using retrieval run to get cards like Femme Fatale back for cheap, which is a reasonable strategy. It's kind of a fun strategy. The problem is, I don't know. There's not really a problem with that. It's kind of a fun strategy. The thing is, you kind of need a good Femme Fatale target first. There aren't really going to be any in Ikuna's deck, because it looks like a very standard Jinteki deck from what I've been seeing, with lots and lots of cheap ice. Femme Fatale really wants a very expensive ice to be res so that she can ignore it. Here's a Nisai Mark II. It's the first agenda of the game. It's not too surprising. It's only 7 or 11 cards down, so that is very surprising. Oh, he clicked the draw. Oh, he's gonna install a shadow. You see that this snare isn't really doing anything. Ikuna installed it, and it's not really. I don't think that Circus is ever going to run this server, so he's never going to hit the snare, so in that sense it was kind of a waste. If Ikuna held it in his hand, then if Circus ever broke through this Enigma, he could get into his hand and possibly hit the snare. But as is, it's not going to happen. He's just building up credits on Katie Jones. I'm not sure. 15 credits on Katie Jones is really big. Against Jinteki, it really doesn't matter that much because Jinteki doesn't have much in the way of tags. Usually they only have snares, so if you don't get hit by a snare, you're not going to lose your Katie Jones. But Jinteki... yeah. But 15 credits on Katie Jones is just amazing. So next turn you can spend a click to go up from 5 credits to 20 credits, which is just huge. Katie Jones is a really, really good card. It's basically the only economy card you need as a runner. sometimes. You can just keep it out. What's a discard? He discarded an imp. I might have discarded the liberated accounts there just because he has Katie Jones going, but I'm not even sure if that's correct. We have a hedge fund here for Ikuna. Ikuna's not doing so poorly with the economy himself. He has a lot of unresed ice, which with Xanadu in play is actually a really big deal. He's gonna install the Nisai and advance it once. Yeah, into that. Yeah, okay. There was apparently a misclick or something there. It said he installed the card, but yeah, he only did it once. So he's installing the Nisai here and advancing it once. This puts Circusfire in a really, really difficult situation. Circusfire can get in there. It's only guarded by a Chum and a Shadow at the moment, which doesn't actually stop him, but he will take net damage and give Ikuna more money and possibly take a tag if he runs through there, which isn't a huge deal right now, but he could also play a Femme Fatale on this ice and run it, which would be a really big waste of a Femme Fatale. If he just lets this Nisai go, it's actually pretty bad for him. Nisai is one of the stronger agendas. It's actually weaker in Jinteki than you might think, but being able to use this to just end the run whenever you want is just very, very powerful. Yeah, in Nisai is one of those agendas. If it were in a different faction like Wayland or HB, it would just be the best agenda in the game. In Jinteki, it's only a pretty good agenda because Jinteki has a hard time scoring it because it's kind of an awkward one. It's a 4-2, which means that if you put one advancement counter on it, it might be it's kind of hard to bluff it as a Junebug, or it's harder to bluff it as a Junebug than a 5-cost agenda. Yeah, so he scored it. It's not a 3-cost agenda are really the best, but score it. He discarded Deja Vu from the personal evolution and identity ability, deals 1 net damage, and made him discard. Made Circus discard his Deja Vu. And so now he's Nisai, and things are interesting. Nisai is really, really good at countering run events like Demolition Run. Demolition Run isn't very good right now because of, Circusfire can only access 1 card from R&D or HQ, and Demolition Run is only really good if you can access multiple cards. But yeah, so it's really, but Nisai is good against that. It's really good against the Vamp. They're less good against Vamp. Interesting. This is an interesting play. Basically, Circusfire. Oh, he's using Vamp on Ikuna. So he's going to pay 8 credits essentially to break all the 8 credits of to get rid of Ikuna's 8 credits. Unless Ikuna did not use Nisai. Ikuna, you could have used Nisai there to save his 8 credits, but he didn't do it probably because he doesn't have any agendas in hand. He feels pretty safe on that front. And in order to use Vamp, Circus has to take a tag, which means he either has to remove it, or he has 4 different resources in play that Ikuna could potentially trash in the future. So that's very scary. I actually think there's an argument for resing Hosaka Grid there. It's kind of a interesting question on whether to res that against. Yeah, I don't know. The Circus would have to pay. Wow! Ikuna drew a Melange Mining Corp. That is the single best card that he could have drawn at that point. Melange is very, very excellent for getting you from 1 to more than 1 credit. And Circus drew a sure gamble. Circusfire, that vamp was very, very good for him. It's putting him back in this game. Before I thought he was getting a little sort of snowballed out of it, but now the vamp sort of turned things around. Corporation with only 2 credits is not very, very scary. They can't really do very much to stop you. But a corporation with 7 or 8 credits is very, very deadly. So generally, it's more important. Vamp is a good card because a runner credit is more important than, or a corporation credit is more important than a runner credit. 1 credit for the corporation is much more important because corporation generally has a harder time getting credits, and when they have credits, it's generally for a permanent thing, like ice. The ice are generally permanent. Yeah. So, whereas the runner usually has to spend credits to use their icebreakers and repeatedly get into servers. Um, so Yogg Point was a bad example, but for instance, Crypsis, you have to spend a lot of credits over time to break into servers. So if you can spend a bunch of credits to make the corp lose a bunch of credits, they can res less ice, meaning that you have to use fewer credits on icebreakers. Stuff like Crypsis. So Ikuna did not res the Hosakai grid, even though he had enough credits. I believe that's a good move. And now Circus is sort of almost entirely out of credits. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Right, I was wondering, how does Circus only have 1 money? He is Whizzard. Whizzard is very, very good at trashing those things. Usually Hosakai Grid is very annoying because it costs 4 to trash. It's sort of like a reverse pad campaign almost. Instead of gaining you money every time the runner runs that, they take 1 net damage. Oh, there's the pop-up window. Pop-up window is sort of good against Yogg. It's not completely invalidated if the runner has Yogg, because the game 1 credit isn't actually a subroutine, it's an on-encounter effect. So while they don't have to pay a credit to get through it, when they have Yogg, they at least, and he hit the corporate troubleshooter. Yeah, while they don't have to pay a credit, you at least gain a credit. Corporate troubleshooter, yeah, I would really trash that. At least it's good for Ikuna that Circus didn't hit his Melange. Melange is cheaper than Corporate Troubleshooter, also much more important at this stage of the game. I'm not sure where he discarded Crypsis, but it looks like he's very, very focused on using a retrieval run. Circus kind of has a one-track mind at this point. He's going to retrieval run or bust. So Akuna drew a Neural Katana, which is a pretty strong card. This is the best Jinteki ice in the game, basically. 3 net damage is pretty huge. It's very, very bad against Mimic, because Mimic can get by it for 1 credit, but against all other breakers, it's actually very, very efficient. He's just clicking for credits now? I would have at least used Katie Jones once there. Yeah, I think the correct play there was to use Katie Jones at least once. I'm not sure why I didn't. Maybe he temporarily forgot about it. I know sometimes it's hard to keep track of everything that you remember in the games. Oh my goodness. Um, Ikuna sort of blind iced archives. I'm not sure if he knows about the retrieval run or if he just is worried about general Anarch nastiness or something. But he put an ice on archives, which makes. I'm pretty sure he figured it out because he saw that Circusfire was discarding expensive ice, which is something that retrieval run decks like to do a lot. So Ikuna decided to put an ice down on archives. This makes retrieval run much, 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 much worse. Since not only do you have to, spend 3 credits and make a run, but you also have to break this ice or suffer the consequences. It's just a neural katana. So I mean, Ikuna could res the neural katana, or he could just not and try to hopefully to try to deter him. But my guess is he would res the neural katana. Yeah. So Circusfire really needs to figure out some way to deal with this. He doesn't know what this ice is. It could be an ice wall. It could be a pop-up window. It could be really anything. I've even seen some Jinteki decks run Janus 1.0, which is very, very scary if they actually manage to hit with it. Um, so that's going to be difficult for him to deal with it. And he discarded Demolition Run. I'm not sure what Circus Fire's plan is with this deck. Why he has Demolition Run in it. Kuna drew a Brain Trust, which is reasonable here. Possibly lets him score another 2 points. There's a Doppelganger for Circus and another Sure Gamble. Sure Gamble is very, very good. Just drawing Sure Gambles all the time makes Wild Side, fairly effective. If you could just pack your deck with 10 or 15 Sure Gambles, you probably would. You could in the old Netrunner, the original Netrunner. In Android Netrunner, you cannot do that. So that was one of their sort of balance changes they made to the game. And I wonder if he's going to play another card. He played Data Sucker. Circus hasn't really been running very much, which is an odd thing. He has a clear shot at Akuna's hand, but I guess he just doesn't want that to happen. He could get in and trash this melange, but again, he's going to let him sit. And yeah, 2 more unique resources he already has in play, so that's not a very good draw. Yeah, he's running. He has 4 unique resources in play, which is kind of funny. Because there aren't that many unique resources. This might be all of them. Oh, no, there's a helpful AI, I think, is the only other unique resource that Circus does not have in play. It's kind of funny. Yeah. Okay, now he's running his hand, which is a good move. Especially if you're not going to trash the melange, then this pop-up window doesn't really matter all that much. He should really use Imp to trash this. Yeah, he used Imp to trash it. Imp lets you spend the virus scanner. Once per turn, spend the virus scanner to trash any card you access. Whether or not it can actually be trashed. And he's going to Doppelganger in. Maybe into the hand again? We'll see. Maybe into... Yeah. R&D wouldn't be a terrible move. I'm not sure why Well, Circus is running Xanadu, which means he's sort of trying to run Resource Denial deck, but he's not trashing this Melange, even though he could get in there. There's a Neural EMP. I bet that's one he wish he would have saved his imp for. Neural EMPs can get very dangerous, although Wild Side is sort of a good counter to the Jinteki net damage style play. You can refill your hand very quickly. Although he's sort of running low on cards at the moment in deck. It's going to be a couple turns before he runs out, but there's a false lead. At this point, I'm not sure if Ikuna needs this Melange. Right, he figured it out too. He's throwing his Brain Trust in. That's sort of a ambitious move. The false lead's safer because it's only one agenda point, but also he probably wants to get it out of his hand because Circus has shown that he's not afraid to run his hand, but he is sort of afraid to run the remote. That's the thing against Jinteki. It's very, very scary to run against their remote servers. Here's a Force of Nature. I'm not sure why this is even in Circusfire's deck. I'm not sure if there's a good deck for Force of Nature. It's basically a Gordian Blade, only costs more, is weaker, and doesn't have the until end of run strength boosting thing. Its strength only lasts for one ice. It only costs one influence, and it's in faction for Anarch. But Yogg.0 costs the same amount of influence in all decks, costs the same amount of credits, and it also breaks most of the commonly played code gates for free. And it's even cheaper when you have Data Sucker out. It breaks even more of the ice. So I think Force of Nature is sort of the backup plan. A lot of runners have this feeling that they have to have a backup plan in case Yogg fails. I know I was that way. For a long, long, long time I was running Gordian Blade in my criminal deck, my Gabe deck, instead of running a Yogg.0. Just because I wanted to have the strength to beat a toll booth. But then I realized that, paying 3 influence for a weaker card is not really a good idea. Yogg.0 is generally just stronger than most other decoders at the moment. And yeah, I think it's the right play to run the hand. I'm not sure. I would really, when you have 7 cards in your hand, Jinteki's not going to be able to kill you. I would run this server right now. Worst case scenario, you hit like an ice wall or something and make him pay 2 credits, but at least you get to see what the ice is. And I mean, he would take some net damage by doing that, but he would also deny him deny Ikuna 2 agenda points. Instead, he's drawing cards, and I still don't know why he's drawing cards. I don't know what he's looking for at this point. He's seen almost his entire deck. You really can't decide not to run it until you have less than 12 cards in your deck. If it takes you that long to run, you're probably doing something wrong. Especially against Jinteki. Wildside is such a huge advantage against Jinteki. Because Jinteki, all they can really do is damage you. Their ice is very porous. They're very strong at damaging you. But they're not very good at keeping you out of their servers. Wildside lets you heal up the damage very, very fast, and you'll naturally draw above 5 cards. So it's going to be very hard for Jinteki to kill you. Ikuna drew another false lead and placed it into the remote server. This is a strong strategy. If he scores this, he's got 5 points, and he just needs to score one more 2-point agenda. He also has another false lead that he can potentially score, and then he only needs one more agenda point. Yeah. Since Ikuna has a bunch of credits, he can afford to spend 5 to res this Neural Katana, and deal 3 net damage and potentially knock out an important card from Circusfire's hand, or potentially deter additional runs on archives. So he knocked out a vamp, and yeah, a vamp, and then some less useful cards. So, and he played an Asai to end the run. There's a Mimic. Mimic is good right now. Mimic lets him break through just about everything. I'm not sure why he's still drawing. Is he looking for a Corroder? That's the only thing I can think of. Is he's looking for? Although he has a what? Oh, the net damage discard the Mimic. Circusfire has only 8 cards left in his deck. This is very dangerous to be against Jinteki. If you run out of cards in your deck against Jinteki, then their net damage can just slowly wear you down over time. I really, really am not liking this play of just wait. You have to be more aggressive than this as a runner. This is something I've seen a lot in all the beginner tournament games I've casted so far, is that the runner is very, very passive. Circus has only actually run against 2 servers this entire game. He's only run against HQ and Archives. He hasn't even checked to see what's behind R&D. He has never run this remote, even though it's a very weakly defended remote. It's defended by a Chum and a Shadow, but he doesn't know that because he's never checked it. This is something that players need to learn to. I still am not sure what he's drawing for. He only has 3 cards left in his deck. Jinteki can just kill him with any number of cards now. There's a Roto Turret, which is very, very deadly. He's going to put that at the top. So I'm not sure. I might have put that on Archives just to make it harder for him to retrieval run, but still, I don't know if that's going to be a problem. Yeah, right now Circusfire is just going to get attritioned out of this game. Even if he can stop Ikuna from scoring 2 more agenda points, he's probably going to be taking enough net damage that he's going to just run out of cards in his deck. This play has been very, very passive. Even though he had the advantage, he had Wildside and Xanadu early against Jinteki, which is very, very punishing against most Jinteki decks. He also vamped Jinteki down to 0 credits at one point. Again, that's very, very strong. But Ikuna was able to bounce back, and now I think Circus is just attritioned out of this game. I think he's just going to take net damage until he's out of cards completely. Either that, or Ikuna is going to be able to draw and score a 2-point agenda. I'm really not sure how else the game is going to play out. Oops. Yeah, these ice are all very, very weak. Pretty much any breaker at all. Even the Darwin with that Circus discarded early on would be able to break most of these ice with just, 1 or 2, 3 counters. Even with that sucker going and Darwin, he could break every single ice, but he's just decided not to do that for some reason. I'm not sure why he discarded the Darwin early game. He's going to charge in through this Neural Katana. This is very ambitious play because it costs him 3 cards in his hand, and he only has 3 cards in his deck. He'll be down to 4 cards total after this, which against Jinteki is a bad place to be. because one snare and you're basically done for. He really can't play any more cards after this for one retrieval run because the net damage is just too much. Ikuna should really just play on the false lead and just to deal one net damage. The neural EMP also does a lot of net damage. Yeah, this is very very scary. I really feel like Circusfire will get flatlined if he doesn't just straight up lose to agenda damage or to agenda points. He got a Morningstar, which doesn't even help him against the net damage problem. Circus is running. Again, he doesn't run R&D. I mean, Neural Katana would kill him right now, but he has to just assume that there's no extra way to deal net damage out of Ikuna's deck. The only way he can win is if he just takes damage from agendas. Even a fetal AI means that he cannot win the game. If Ikuna draws a fetal AI and plays it here and advances it, then Circus cannot win the game possibly. Cannot possibly win the game. It's just he's just in such a bad position right now. Mostly because he drew and discarded so many cards from Wildside. And he just waited way too long before even making a single move. Yeah. I'm thinking Ikuna's just going to install this false lead down here. Yeah, Circus knows that he needs a miracle to get out of this. I'm not even sure if that would do it. I'm not sure what his last card is, but it's not going to be enough to get him out of this situation. He really needs a Century Breaker, but he doesn't have one. I don't believe. Unless his last card's like a Mimic. I'm not sure why he didn't just play the Mimic that he drew. He got discarded due to net damage. I think he had a window he could have played it. I'm not sure why he didn't. I'm not sure why he's playing R&D interface. You can't do that right now. It's not an option. Why would you play Corroder when you have Morningstar Data Sucker out? Again, this is something that doesn't make sense to me. Morningstar will still break almost every single barrier for one credit. Corroder can't break that. Like, Corroder can boost his strength, but Data Sucker is there so you can boost Morningstar's strength or lower the strength of the ice. I'm really not sure what Circus's endgame is here. There are so many cards you could hit on this R&D dig that would just instantly cause him to lose the game. Like a Snare, he would instantly lose the game. A Fetal AI, he would instantly lose the game. Any two agendas, he would lose the game. And now he has to draw, otherwise he loses the game. You tries to chum? How did you try? Yeah. Yeah. Whatever. Yeah, he trashed to chum. He shouldn't have done that. It's just knocked. Got a mistake. So this last look he has to draw up, otherwise he's just dead. He's gonna run again. I don't know he's hoping to gain out of this run, because if he hits an agenda, he dies. Um, Maybe he's just trying to get more points to try hope to win the match, but that seems kind of loose too. I mean, there's no possible way for him to win. It's actually literally impossible for him to win. The only possible way for him to win would be no. There's actually no possible way for him to win because yeah, Ikuna's gonna score a false lead here, trashing Circusfire's last card. Or he's not. He's just leaving it there because it doesn't actually matter. He's hoping to do 2 net damage in 1 turn, apparently. I think that was sort of bad play because Circusfire could technically win by running, getting a priority requisition, and then running again and getting another non-fetal AI 2 points agenda or a priority requisition, which is a very very low probability of happening, but it's still a potential way. Scoring the false lead there would have removed that victory condition from Circusfire. So I really think that scoring a false lead there was the correct play, but oh, and then yeah, Roto Turret just blows them out just for the complete blowouts. I mean, this Roto Turret doesn't actually matter all that much because he can trash one of these two, or he can trash Yogg, which is probably his best bet, but still. No, in the wait, yeah. So on Ikuna's turn, he's gonna score this false lead and play an early EMP and win and flatline Circus and win the game. It's all academic at this point. Circus may be able to score an agenda off of this. He still may be able to score like 2 priority requisitions, which would be fairly big for him. I mean, which would be the only way he could potentially win the game. I really doubt that's going to happen. I don't know the odds off the top of my head, but it's very low odds. Yeah, if Circus does not see a trashable card or an agenda this run, he has lost the game. Yep, he lost the game. And Ikuna just decided, I don't want to see Circus do the rest of his turn. I just want to end the game right now. Which is a good play. Well, it doesn't actually matter. But it kind of speeds things up if Circus ends his turn. Oh, he's making a run on HQ. I think he's looking for points so he can have a better standing in the match. But there are no points in Ikuna's hand, so it doesn't actually matter. There's just neural EMPs and ice. Well, a neural EMP. This card is actually much better than it looks. It looks like you have to pay 2 credits and a card and a click to make them discard a card, which seems pretty bad, but it actually just extends your reach as Jinteki by so much. In normal situations, like they think, oh, I can deal with 3 net damage, but then you have a neural EMP and do 4 net damage, and then they're just blown out. Or you have 2 neural EMPs and do 5 net damage, and they're completely blown out. and so it's a very powerful card for extending your reach and flatlining when they think they can't be flatlined. Here it just closed out an already inevitable game, so yeah, that game was lost. Circus was playing much too cautiously. I mean, against Jinteki you have to be cautious, but he was too cautious. He also discarded several important cards, several breakers that would have really helped him, and he just let himself be attritioned out to death. Yeah. So thanks for watching. That was the first game of the match, and I'll see you again.